When we come into this world, we're assigned from birth to a country, a tribe, and a family, and we spend the rest of our lives making the best of what we've been given. None of us gets a choice in it, and we can't change them even if we wanted to. But one beautiful gift life dealt us is the gift of choosing our friends. At every junction in our life's journey, whether in school, in our community, or in business, who we hang out with is entirely up to us. Who we let in and how far we choose to let them in are all choices left to us. And the consequences that follow are ours to bear. There are friends for particular seasons of our lives. There are friends that stick closer than our siblings. And there are evil communications that can corrupt good morals. When we call someone friend, we declare that we're for them and they are for us. We're loyal to them and they to us. When they're down, it's up to us to stand by them and lift them up. And when we're down, they're to do same to us. A good friend can pivot us to greatness. A good friend can set us straight when we're going astray. They're an asset and a treasure to be cherished. But as instrumental as good friends can be, bad friends can be just as detrimental. Like one bad egg that ruins a whole crate. One bad friend can sap goodness in and around you. We must be careful in picking our friends as a lot rides on this decision. Like all great things, this lifelong friendship started at the most unlikely of places, the battlefield. The young lad, David, had just finished making a spectacle of the Philistines, killing their champion, Goliath, beheading him with his own sword, and putting their army to flight. David was summoned before the king, Saul, Jonathan's father, and as he spoke, Jonathan was deeply impressed by him. He became totally committed to him, and their souls were knitted together. They made a pact with each other, and Jonathan formalized it by gifting David his royal robes and weapons. Over time, though, Saul was set at odds with David by the stories his subjects bore. He confided in his son, Jonathan, his intentions to slay him. But Jonathan, being a good friend, exposed the plot to David. He chose his friend over his king and father and was committing treason by leaking the king's intentions to David. Jonathan came up with a plan to outwit his father. He would meet up with him at a discreet location and discuss David's matter with him. David would hide within earshot to eavesdrop on their conversation. If Jonathan could convince his father to spare David, David would stay on to serve the king. But if he couldn't, David would know and escape. The duo set things in motion, and thankfully, Jonathan convinced Saul to spare David. He spoke good of his friend and reminded the king of all the help David had done Israel by defeating the Philistines. He pointed out David's innocency and asked if his father wanted to sin against innocent blood. Saul hearkened to his son and promised to not harm David. The Lord was with David, and he behaved himself wisely in all his ways. He returned to his service in the king's courts as a musician. But not too long after, an evil mood came upon the king, and he, once more, sought to slay David. One day, while David ministered with his harp, Saul lunged a javelin at him but missed his mark. David slipped away and escaped again. He met up with Jonathan, his friend, distraught and afraid. Jonathan was as shocked as him. Usually, the king told him everything he wanted to do, but he had hid this from him because he knew his son shared a bond with David. Once again, the duo came up with a plan to ascertain the king's intentions. David was scheduled to have dinner with Saul in a few days. He asked his friend, Jonathan, to cover for him and tell the king that he had a family event to attend. If Saul was okay with it, it would mean he had no ill intentions against David and David was safe. But if he was angry by the news, then indeed, he was after David's life. The two friends made a covenant with each other to be faithful and loyal, and to continue to show themselves kindness even to their generations to come. Jonathan went back and did as David had suggested. Lo and behold, Saul was very wroth. Saul pointed out to Jonathan that as long as David lived, he, Jonathan, couldn't be king. But the young man didn't care. His love for his friend trumped his desire to succeed his father on the throne. He exposed his father's plans to David, and David fled. Years went by. Saul went to war against the Philistines once again, but this time, God wasn't on their side. He died in the battle, alongside all three of his sons, Abinadab, Malchishua, and Jonathan. When David heard the news, he tore his clothes and wept sorely. His friend was no more. David ate nothing till the evening of that day. How are the mighty fallen? With the throne vacant, the Israelites needed a new king, and there was none other better qualified than David. He was anointed and reigned in Saul's stead. But David was not quick to forget his friend Jonathan, nor the covenant they made with each other. He sought out and found Mephibosheth, Jonathan's son, and gave him a seat at his table. He didn't pay heed to the fact that Mephibosheth was the grandson of Saul, the man who sought to kill him. David took care of him and established him as he would have done to Jonathan. If you've enjoyed this video thus far, leave a like and subscribe to our channel. 1. Friendships are very important and shouldn't be entered into lightly. 2. A good friend will choose your welfare over their material gains. Jonathan could have chosen the throne, but he chose David, his friend. 3. Some friendships can outlive us, and our children can reap the rewards of our inputs. 4. We can make lifelong friends in the most unlikely places. Always keep an open mind. Jonathan was royalty, but he didn't disdain David, a mere citizen. 5. Be ready to go all out for those you call friends. Jonathan chose and defended David against his own father and king. 6. A good friend keeps his promises. David could have chosen to go back on his word after the passing of his friend, Jonathan, but he kept it. What are some things you learned? Put them in the comments section. Let's discuss. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more like this.